The dinar is not going to happen today or the next week as far as I know, but this is a pretty big step for them because this allows a lot of liquidity which is necessary inside of Iraq. Liquidity has always been an issue for Iraq. This will change that. That means more businesses/people doing exchanges with the currencies. A lot of liquidity in Iraq is what they need. The fact they are talking to you, Iraqi citizens, that the HCL is coming, means a new exchange rate is coming. For decades, forever, the corruption in Iraq have stolen the future of the children of Iraq, let alone the Middle East. You'll find them in parliament, you'll also find them in the media, television, newspapers of Iraq. Sadoni brought in Alak with the permission of the board of directors of the CBI. When he did, things started to move forward. That's why a 10-year report has now been put out. Alak comes back on TV again, and he's talking about we have in circulation 100 trillion dinars, and in our reserves we have well over 100 trillion, making our currency to be stable and low inflation. Frank, the CBI has never even printed 100 trillion dinars, so how is it possible? Because you're going to go digital and you have a new exchange rate. Transport announces completion of initial design phase of development road with its land and rail routes. I think they've got it to an exposure level. They haven't exposed the 2024 budget yet. They haven't exposed the hydrocarbon law yet. They haven't turned on oil in the port, into Turkey, yet. Why? Because I think the 2024 budget has something that we're waiting for. What are you doing in Michigan? I'm taking care of the CBI Bank. What else you doing in Michigan? Me and my 18 partners, we've got 93 currency center banks. Where? Michigan, the state is important. For who? The CBI, the Arab population is massive. There are cities that are just Arab now. Mr. Sami said he has heard that Citibank and JP Morgan, who have worked with Iraq for the last 2 years, went to all the meetings, with the IMF, World Bank. It turns out Citibank have come out with something called Citi Direct program. It's so banks can exchange foreign currency and deal with 135 different currencies. It is direct and all digital, just like everything we're doing in Iraq, Mr. Sami says these two banks will be leading the way, but it will be banks all over the world too. Frank, you can't be a central hub at a program rate. The election of the new Speaker of Parliament will contribute to the legislation of important and obstructed laws. I have a few folks in Iraq that are convinced that sitting the new Speaker was important, and now I know why. They specifically name the hydrocarbon law in this article, the HCL. There was a lot of meat to go with those potatoes. Sadoni, the Prime Minister of Iraq, is now in control of the auctions of their CBI. What's so important about that? Because when the government sells their oil, they get paid in dollars. That's the agreement with America, and then those dollars go into the CBI auction, and they get converted into dinars. That goes back to the government to pay their bills. But it wasn't. It was going from the CBI auctions to the hands of the corrupt, profiteering, evil people, the far left of Iraq. The auctions were the problem. Not anymore. The new slogan made in Iraq: this is about what he needs to make a real impact. I do love the conversation going on in Iraq right now and the diversification, and it is a nationwide effort. They used to have 130 trillion dinars in circulation. They tell you now it's 100 trillion dinars, it will be trillions to billions. 130. And now reported 100 trillion is a big clue of the direction of the exchange rate. The 100 trillion dinar they are talking about is the value of the IQD, not the number of notes in circulation. The difference is extremely important. The clue is it's going in the right direction of adding purchasing power to the country's currency. When Iraq announced that it had paid off all its debts to the International Monetary Fund last May, Reuters quoted the fund as saying that Iraq was facing internal imbalances exacerbated by the large financial expansion and the decline in oil prices, and that it needed to gradually correct the public finances to achieve debt stability in the medium term and rebuild reserves. At the same time, despite the expansion in public finance management with the aim of achieving significant increases in growth rates, the Ministry of Planning announced a decline in inflation rates from 7.5% to 4%, which is a positive precedent that has never happened before and is credited to those in charge of monetary and financial policies. It was leaked from the central bank that the cash reserve exceeds $110 billion and that the country's gold reserves amounted to nearly 150 tons. The full repayment of the country's debt to the International Monetary Fund, the decline in the inflation rate, and the increase in the cash reserve rates were indicators of a major shift in economic policies, not because the amount of debt was large, exceeding about $8 billion, but because such debts are usually conditional in the context of the so-called economic reform program that aims to privatize state functions and link the country's fate to the policies of the creditor parties and those behind them.